One to Town Hall, Scott, number 70. I didn't want to put you on the spot there, Scott. I know you probably had it already in the background, but great to have Luke back. He's fresh in from Cancun, and Luke was there with the group of the Siteglide folks attending the WSI Global Convention. And yeah, I can remember, maybe it was back in 2007 or so, I'm not quite sure, where Business Catalyst back in the day brought on WSI as a sales channel. And obviously great benefit in the sense that they have a very large number of internet consultants. They're like a franchise or a licensing group, and bring on internet consultants through a program, and of course have gone through a lot of due diligence with many of their suppliers, and of course have put Siteglide through similar due diligence in terms of assessing whether they want to have Siteglide as the key replacement for Business Catalyst. And of course, we've come through with flying colors. So what we wanted to do today was have Luke give us an overview of his time in Cancun. I think Luke is going to also take us through a presentation they presented to the ICs there, the internet consultants. And lastly, Luke is going to give us some updates. So over to you, Luke.
Thanks, Colin. I think you did my update for my introduction for me. Yeah, great to see everybody. It's been a really busy couple of months for us. Obviously, the usual amount of work with features and all sorts of things going on, but yeah, preparing for the Cancun trip and planning some new exciting things as well, which I'll go through. So yeah, WSI, we've been sort of working with them over the last however many months to sort of get on board, and then planning to go to Cancun for their annual convention. So we became an approved supplier a few months ago now, and then we went to the Cancun annual convention as a silver sponsor. I'll just pull up my screen. Hopefully everybody can see it. I was just flicking. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thanks, Luke.
Cool, thanks. I was just flicking through the attendee list. I can see we've got Daniel here. Daniel De Paz is a WSI IC. We've been working with him for many months now, and helping sort of get sites live. And yeah, it was great to go out there and meet people we have been working with for months, as well as loads of new partners and ICs that we haven't yet met or worked with, and it was a great experience, and there's a real sort of family kind of feel to the way everyone works there. Everyone helps each other and really collaborates together. So yeah, just got a few updates really. Wanted to explain how that trip went, and I guess the relevance of it, and I did a talk out there, a breakout session, which I was going to run through, just quickly show you the presentation. I'll go through it fairly quickly, but then give you a link, make a link available to the sort of full slide deck. And then we've got a few sort of updates really. We've got something called Starter Site, which I think will really help with onboarding and getting used to Siteglide. So it's a way you can quickly get up and running with a site and see sort of best practice, see the new eCommerce release that came out recently. You'll be able to play around with that. As well as we've been doing a lot of thinking on our support, our onboarding, our docs, our roadmap, all of that. And we've sort of revamped that with the help of some partners. Been talking to partners quite a bit, getting feedback on how things are going. To name a few, great been speaking to you about all of that. Devon, quite a few other partners as well. So really listening to feedback, and it's great to be able to show you some of these updates. But what I'd really like to do then after that, if we have time, is just open up discussion. It'd be great if this one can be a little bit more informal, I guess, like jump in and ask questions at any point. And I think the biggest thing we've got to say is we get some really good feedback on how we're doing and everything, but we just want to hear more really. We want to discuss things more with partners and get a feel for how things are going. Yeah, so I think we'll jump in. So it was it was a really interesting event, obviously, to go all the way over to Mexico to be a sponsor, to present a talk. We did a roundtable session as well. We had a booth set up to meet all the different ICs and partners out there. So quite a few different things going on. Did manage to find a few nice spots to actually do some prep work. And then this was actually the presentation that I did on something called User First, which you might have seen from our website and might have seen from some of the previous presentations. But I'm just going to go into that a little bit more, so you've got a bit more information on that. I think some of it's maybe not relevant to everybody, but I think hopefully there's some relevant bits in there. One of the key points that people took away from it, and that I think has been quite big so far, is the design system concept, which I know platformOS and UiPath have adopted the sort of Figma approach to design and that kind of concept of a design system. So I'll go into that very briefly, as well as some other concepts of User First. And we did have a bit of time to catch up with some partners. We've got Daniel here, who's on the call today, and Renato from Silktides. They're another partner of a supplier of WSI. They do audits and reports for websites, and one of the slides I think you'll see that we achieved 100 out of 100, which proves that the platform is capable of it doesn't limit you in any way in terms of what you can achieve from a page speed or just accessibility or SEO results, which was nice to be able to do, and great to catch up with people and yeah, enjoy some time as well as the hard work. And then finally on the last night there was a gala just for everyone to get together and have some drinks. That was about an hour in before the rain came, and it comes pretty quickly. So yeah, it was a really good event. Cool. We then did also get a little time to ourselves, had a couple of days at the end to sort of enjoy Mexico a bit. So the four of us went out, my dad actually, Martin and Dean, who hopefully you guys have met a little bit over the last how many months. But yeah, got to see a few beaches, and we actually went down to the south and saw some incredible sort of underwater cave systems and did a bit of snorkeling there. So a lot of work, but a bit of fun too. So yeah, do feel free to jump in if you've got any questions as we go. It'd be great to discuss them, but obviously at the end as well. It's good. But yeah, what I thought I'd do,
Luke, at this time is I'm super jealous. I think I went to Miami, and I can't remember the other two locations, but wow, what a great location to be at. Must have been fun.
It's not bad for yeah, for a work trip. It's good fun. Cool. Yeah, so I thought I'd just go through some of the main slides that I did in this presentation. As I say, hopefully some of it's useful, but it gives you a bit of an insight into the kind of things that we're passionate about and some of the things that we've built into Siteglide and our core beliefs. A lot of it should, I imagine, will resonate in terms of the platformOS element as well, and how sort of moving away from the closed box SaaS product approach and having far more flexibility to do anything and kind of embrace sort of data and connecting up to different things. So what I did when I was there in the presentation, I gave a quick background of sort of my experience and sort of the 10 years of starting an agency, trying to grow an agency, realizing what things we wanted to focus on, and then the journey of finding BC, end of life, moving to platformOS, and all of that really. Then I sort of introduced the user first concepts, and there's some 6 segments that I'll briefly look at. Gave a few examples of how you would go about picking some tools. Obviously, Siteglide platformOS is the approach we would recommend, but there are other ways you could look at doing things, and there will be scenarios when you would actually pick an integration via API with another tool. So there's lots of different things that you could do. And then we did a few examples of how we've done user first in action, or how some of our partners have. And then finally, just a sort of summary and a few giveaways, including our design system. So yeah, I'll try and get this through this a bit quicker because it was a sort of 45-minute presentation. But you guys know most of this, I imagine. There was the sort of starting an agency, picking VC. I went through, as I'm sure you guys did, lots and lots of platforms, evaluating them all, working out which would help us build a successful agency. Picked VC, really sort of worked out how to get the most out of VC, and one of the main things I think probably we all agree on is data, and sort of the web apps with secure zones, with CRM, all in one system, allowed you to kind of interact with customers more. And that's where sort of user first came from quite a long time ago. And then obviously launching Siteglide, working with finding platformOS, talking to Adam, getting started, and that's about 18 months ago now, if not quite a bit more than that, I think, actually. And then having something that's just far more than a BC replacement. It's been quite an interesting journey, and yeah, quite exciting, really. So I just sort of gave a few examples of how we did that over the 10 years as an agency. So started by building nice brochure sites. That client has been with WSI for over 10 years. They stuck with us because we were reliable. The site was up all the time, and that was one of the testaments of BC. It was incredibly reliable. It did the job, and for that kind of site, it was perfect. But then we evolved and were able to do more with the kind of user experience. So this is a site that's live on BC, but will be coming across, where there's a video channel, and there's hundreds of web items which have videos in there, people commenting and interacting with the site, and that they get 9 million monthly views of their videos. And then finally, in the last year and a half, working with UiPath to build a complex community and marketplace, which we've demoed before, a company that's gone from 1 billion valuation to 7 billion in 12 months. And that, I think, proves where it just wouldn't have been possible on BC. The functionality there just wasn't possible, and it shows how platformOS opens the doors to so much more, but then we're trying to make it more accessible as well. Let's say more BC-like, and some of the features that the agencies might need as well. Yeah, so we ran through that. Then gave a bit of context to that, to sort of why user first is important, and the industry. Adobe did a study with eConsultancy, sort of explaining the importance of tech and having the right stack that allows you to consolidate data and do more with data. There were quite a few other things we showed, but companies trying to bring their data into one platform, and one of the graphs I had was saying how data-driven marketing was the top thing that people were looking at in 2019, above video, social, AI, all of those sorts of things. So data is hugely important, and the customer experience is affected massively by that. As I say, do jump in if you've got any questions. Hopefully it's all making sense. So yeah, then I sort of briefly introduced the user first concept. So I mean, it's a name that we've coined, I guess. It comes from the mobile first concept, the digital first. It's really more hands-on than something like user experience or customer experience. They're concepts, they're sort of methodologies and process and everything, but we've kind of really put technology into that and focused on 6 segments that really take it quite a bit further and allow you to do things that you can't necessarily do without the right technology. And we believe it's something that helps agencies really stand out and offer something that's far more than just websites, which I know we've all believed in from the BC days, but hopefully we know that we can really do it now with platformOS. And then, yeah, being able to attract better clients. I'll try not to go through this in the same detail. So the first one was design. I think you guys have seen our previous presentations on this and the talk about design system. So having a design system and the Figma approach, we believe is pretty revolutionary to sort of the traditional themes, templates approach. Envision, have a clear view on that. And now more and more companies are building a design system that they employ through all of their sort of branding and all of their digital collateral. So we got the Figma file. I introduced that and explained how actually then having a design system built into your web process and development process is a real time saver. And later on showed a bit to do with our design system based on Bootstrap and layout library, visual editor, all of that. So having those tools within the design process is really, really valuable from an agency perspective, but also the end user ends up with a best practice site that's hopefully right first time, because they can go through that process and get it right. Yeah, a few examples on that later. The second one was communication. Again, this is sort of, agencies know all of this stuff. I'm not trying to teach anything new. It's just making sure that the messaging and the right use of content is there, and obviously having tools that help you do that. So building landing pages, SEO, you'll see that screenshot, if it comes back around again, is a Sitebeam, Silkside, report, where it just shows that because we've got the right tags for SEO, because we've got the speed of platformOS and all the CDN and caching and everything, that there's nothing to stop you achieving top results from a site quality perspective and audits. So that's really important when doing things like SEO and making sure that Google and everything from a communications perspective is there. Obviously there's huge benefits to getting that right. I think I had a quote on here actually that Airbnb believe they're a $10 million company because of because of user experience and getting that right. And Amazon changed their I think it was progress button to I can't actually remember that one, but they changed one word on a button and it resulted in a huge increase in sales and conversions. The next one, probably most relevant to platformOS, was architecture. So we just looked at explaining the kind of levels that you don't typically see when you pick either an open source platform or a SaaS product. So needing that kind of core infrastructure that has the speed, the reliability, security, and compliance all built in. And then the platform layer that builds that kind of flexibility, gives you all the functionality, scalability, and performance, but fully accessible and editable and customizable. And then the tools on top that actually help you get it done. So you can potentially skip that step, which is the platformOS approach. You guys can build whatever you want, but we want to add tools on top to make it easier to do some of those things and more repeatable. Different use cases mean different things. Sometimes the software element is not going to have the features that you need, so you end up going and building bespoke, and there are projects that have the budget for that and there are projects that don't. So it completely depends. I think I'll come on to that later, but somebody gave me a good analogy the other day actually. Yes, we talked about the architecture. One of the key points there, we don't want to compare too much to specific things, but just security is something that's underrated in my opinion. People often go for cheap hosting and do everything manually because it's free or cheap, and the cost to a business of having poor security, speed, reliability, compliance, all those things is just huge, I think, as we all know. So quick look in the chat. Oh, there we go. Dean put the Amazon quote up there. So yeah, Amazon changed register to continue, which resulted in an extra $300 million of purchases on their platform in the first year. Just ridiculous, really. Yeah, so architecture for us was the fundamental one, and we were so happy when we knew that platformOS was the right element for us, right partner for us, because we're not DevOps experts, and we needed somebody that could provide that layer for us and pick the right infrastructure, get the most out of that infrastructure, and provide all the things we needed to build what we're good at. And I think I'll come on to it in a minute, but that's the difference between a lot of traditional approaches and platforms. So then moved on to interaction. How am I doing for time? Too bad. So interaction is where, like, the 4th, 5th, and 6th segments is where it gets interesting. And I think where some of the drag and drop CMSs or platforms kind of start to fall short, where you can't do some of the more interesting, more interactive things that engages users and sort of drives conversions. So forms tied deeply into the site, modules, subscriptions, eCommerce, basically allowing people to do the main interactions that either result in sales or conversions. Just got an example here from the starter kit, actually, starter site, which I'll show you shortly, of placing orders, filling in forms, all of those kind of things. The 5th one, this is something that we're going to get onto once we get the core functionality out of the way, the core BC replacements, and I'm really, really excited about is once you've got that data in a CRM at the core, you can start to do really clever things with it. And things like GraphQL, and sort of getting under the hood in platformOS through the CLI means you can start to really tap into that data and do things with it. So you can do that right now, and that's the great thing about having both options. You've got the UI for certain stuff and then the CLI for the really bespoke things. Tap into that, but obviously we will then start to build reports. We'll start to build triggers and visual workflows that you could build. There's all sorts of things we can do there that sort of end up competing with things like HubSpot, Salesforce, that kind of stuff at some point. And you cannot do that if you don't have the data. If you don't get the architecture and everything else right, it's very, very hard. Obviously there's ways of doing things with APIs and stuff, which I'll come on to, but it's just so important to make sure we have access to that data. Hopefully I'm not stating the obvious. I know a lot of you guys know all of this, but just showing you the sort of talk that we went through, and hopefully some of it is relevant. So then the 6th one was automation. Again, a really exciting one, very different to personalization, but the two can work together really well. So in some cases, you need to show a really, really personal experience to the user, but in others, you need to just do things for them, just get it done, or internally get things done. So business process automation, connecting up to internal systems just to massively save time and automate things. I think UiPath are a great example of that. Gone on a bit quickly there. That example in the screenshot is a Slack integration that Dean did quickly, actually, just to show the flexibility again of platformOS and what you can do. So we've taken a Siteglide form and just pushed the results of that to Slack using just the API, I believe. Dean might answer that in the chat, but those kind of things are just easy to do. Yeah, I might take a breather, but those were the 6 segments that we've put together to create what we call user first, and it's where you just essentially everything relates to the user. It makes it possible to build a better experience for the user of the site. We also use it at every level, so we want to employ user first so that we build a better UI for our partners. Partners want to build a better experience for the customers, and customers want to give a better experience for the end clients. So it's something that can work throughout the whole process, and really work on top of the kind of mobile first concepts and some of the other ones. Dean's put it in there for me. So yeah, form to Slack webhook via API call natively in platformOS, which is a simple but great example of the openness of platformOS, where you can just get data and fire it somewhere.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Luke. Just, I know you probably want to take a sip of water. So, yeah, just want to jump in there, see if there are any questions out there. I know early days we talked about the sort of hybrid SaaS approach and being able to have the power of the Siteglide CMS type of solution, and not having any limitations to do anything that you need to, and that is really the powerful piece. Luke, you mentioned Siteglide. Could you give us some background to that, and what is the opportunities to work closely with Siteglide, and what do they do?
Yeah, sure. So they're a UK company as well, and Renato, who was in one of the pictures, is around the corner from us actually. But we worked with them a long time ago as an agency. We use their product called SiteBeam, which just does audits. It does website audits, and you can sign up as a agency, and let me just see if I can get in there quickly. Wasn't planning to show this, so hopefully it works. And quickly, let's just go into here, and quickly just run reports on sites. So if we just pop into here, this is an example of the siteglide.com website, just the homepage as an example, where we've just run through some of the tests and made sure all the fundamental things are set up. So you have to do it. You have to make sure you've done meta tags, all that kind of stuff, but there's absolutely nothing stopping you achieving full marks. The one I've excluded is backlinks, because that is a completely separate, it's an off-site task, and obviously the more backlinks the better, but you can achieve really good results. You can use this as a sales tool, so you could go to your potential clients or existing clients with a sort of reason to do a revamp, or come across to you and potentially use Siteglide, or whatever you want in terms of a platform. But it's a great tool for showing the quality of a website, how it's built, and how well it's going to perform.
And Luke, actually, Ursula's just asked what I wanted to ask, which is how integrated will this be into Siteglide, do you think?
Good question. So I've been speaking to Siteglide about that. When I logged in, there was another tool that popped up called Prospect. So that's a tool where you can quickly run a report, and it gives you, let's see if I can get to that actually. It gives you more data about the company. So it'll tell you their kind of advertising, and quite a lot of interesting data actually. That one has an API, and we're going to build that in so that people can quickly run a report about a client and win projects off the back of it. This one doesn't have that yet. So for now, you would have to just have this separately. You literally put the URL in, and it will go and audit the site within a minute, so or a few minutes. So there's no need to integrate this right now. But what I've been discussing with Renato is being able to, let's say there's some spelling errors or some SEO errors, it would show you on which page those are, and you would be able to edit them from within here, or from within our product, so that they're tightly integrated. We'll get there, but for now you can do pretty much everything you need to. I mean, we did this one obviously very easily, just by flicking between the two tools.
Yeah, it looks like a great tool. Any other questions before Luke continues by the rest of the team? Okay, Bob Peterson's just saying that he uses when he presents to prospective clients Siteglide, so that's great. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah. Hi, Bob. Yeah, Bob's the WSI IC. Great to meet you in Cancun. Good to put a face to the name. Cool. Yeah. Okay. I'll carry on, but yeah, feel free to jump in with any questions as we go. So yeah, you'll be pleased to know I'm almost sort of at the end. Those are the main sort of 6 segments. Now I'm just going to touch on how you'd implement it and a few examples, and then show you some of the new stuff that we've got. So the key point, as I've sort of touched on, is that having data at the core is so fundamental. Having a CRM where you capture data, so web forms, e-commerce orders, web apps submitted front end by secure zones, all of those things you could do on VC, with replicating them and improving them at the same time. So without Siteglide, the concept is capturing data within a central CRM that you can then access and use. And obviously you could do that directly on platformOS, and UiPath is a great example of that. We were doing that for the community and the marketplace. So a few quick examples of how to implement it. Obviously, WSI are a big international network. Some people use WordPress, some people use all sorts of different tools. There's no right or wrong. There's different tools that do different things. Salesforce is market leader for CRM, Shopify for e-commerce, Pipedrive for sales CRM, all sorts of tools. So you can pick those tools, you can integrate them via API. Just some things to be wary of are the cost of doing that and learning different systems and whatever. We're not saying there's any right or wrong or discrediting anything, just trying to outline the different options. But another approach is the kind of BC approach. So I think we all loved was the sort of all-in-one. There are tools like Zoho that are more on the sort of free or lower cost side. HubSpot becomes very expensive, I believe. That starts off low cost. But yeah, different focuses and pros and cons really. But I think the thing to be careful of is it a walled garden? Are there going to be limitations? Are they so focused on doing what they do that then you can't do something else and you can't integrate it with other tools? I'm sure you can with some, and I'm sure you can achieve the things that you need to do for certain projects. But our approach was to look at it from a more open perspective, having APIs at the core, meaning that there is no sort of barrier. Essentially everything just works together, and that's kind of the hybrid SaaS approach that Colin mentioned earlier. Again, might not be a right or a wrong, but it's what we believe in, and I think we're really starting to see the fruits of that with either working directly on platformOS, which they have done the integrations with things like SendGrid and modules to Stripe and other things. We've then built a layer on top of that and have an API that allows you to get the most out of both platforms. And then we've integrated with other tools like Stripe and obviously doing Siteglide and those sorts of things, OpenSRS. So just everything working from an API perspective at the core and giving you access to both the SaaS product layer and the kind of DevOps core infrastructure layer or platform layer is really powerful in our opinion, and it's allowed partners to build some pretty impressive projects. So just looking at the chat quickly, I'll come back to some of those. Yeah, so hopefully that sums up the different ways you can go about it. Obviously, I'm going to focus on our way and just delving into that sort of those three layers approach a little bit more. So the infrastructure layer is fundamental, getting that right. And there are loads of players that do that now. There's AWS, Google, who POS, I believe, have just completed the process with to be able to offer that. And Azure is on the list as well. And then other infrastructure kind of tools that provide the best solution for that need. So payment processing, we're not going to try and build that. platformOS not going to try and build that when Stripe do it so well. Same with SendGrid, same with all the top suppliers at an infrastructure level. Then platformOS pulling that together and making everything work and run correctly. So handling things like DNS, SSL, caching, then some languages to interact with them between database and front end. That's something that we're technical, but we can't do that. And most agencies don't want to do that. So pulling all of that together to then allow us, CBO, whoever, to build some tools on top that give you the software element. And really, I don't want to downplay it, but it is the UI and the API on top that we've built that allows you to access the full power of platformOS. So there's some hopefully really nice features in there, but they just use the best infrastructure and platform available, but beneath them. So yeah, CMS, all the things we're used to from BC, but with that full access via CLI, API, and other approaches to really get the most from it. Just quickly looking at the chat. There's a blockchain question now I'll come back to later. Yeah, so those three layers, and then being able to build anything on top. So as we've done communities and marketplaces. You could start building a gallery tool like Flickr, event system like Eventbrite, all sorts of things could be built on top as products, businesses, whatever it might be, and then knowing that you've got total control. And that, in our opinion, is very unusual. That was the main point that we were trying to make. I'm going to speed through a bit just because of time. We were then just showing our setup. So as I mentioned, the thing that makes it so different and work is the kind of headless API approach, where we have our API in the middle, and that seamlessly integrates the different elements. So you've got the UI that you mainly see, clients can log in and edit stuff, and you can build things easily. But then the second that there isn't a feature that you need, you jump to the CLI, which taps straight into platformOS and allows you to build in Liquid, Graph, whatever you want to do. And if that's too technical, then working with a production center within the WSI community, or working with any dev partner, we've got partners who can assist with that. And I think that's a really nice way of, a collaborative way of working, where you stick to what you do best and work with the right partners. And then finally, GitHub versioning, code versioning, there's a standard industry tool for that. Again, we're not going to recreate it. We've integrated that. Somebody gave me an analogy earlier. I don't know if it was Nick from Website Success, but I'll just quickly say it. Somebody talked about, it might have been Devon, it was Devon, sorry, from Engine 8. He was talking about explaining to people that a car has a powerful engine, but there might not be a button on the dash that lets you do what you want to do. There might be a feature that you're looking for. I thought of it sort of on the spot, but Tesla are a good example of the modern approach to that, where you buy a car, it comes off the production line typically, and then it doesn't have that option. You didn't specify it in the factory, but with a Tesla, you can, well, electric cars, let's say, you can install that afterwards, or they can apply that fix or add things in. It's a little bit similar in that the dashboard and the controls are not are limited, but can be improved and don't stop you getting the most out of the underlying engine and mechanics of it, let's say. I'm just going to power through a bit. So yeah, we showed off a few features. Sorry, Colin, did you want to jump in?
No, I wanted to jump in on the blockchain thing for Anthony, and not that I know a lot about it, to be honest, and I'm sure Adam would respond more eloquently, but and maybe Luke, you have insights, but yeah, we do reaffirm that we can integrate into any blockchain. I mean, being an APIs for everything foundation, there is no limits in terms of being able to do that, whether it's a blockchain token or integrating into some sort of blockchain workflow. That is possible. But Anthony, if you want more information on that, we can definitely get back to you on that.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks, Colin. Yeah, we're going to fly through this. So we showed off the design system. That's the visual editor where you can put sections in from our layout library and then start editing in there. Great for clients, great for just quickly building out sites and just knowing that best practice is in place. On top of that, you've then got things like web apps and secure zones. They were massive VC features. We've taken those and taken them quite a bit further, hopefully. And then the CLI and API is just the kind of unique bit that I've been explaining, where you just then have total access to platformOS and do far more, including bespoke integrations. Couple of examples. This is a shopping mall in the UK that WSI worked with. They built a new website for them, but also built a native application that runs locally in the mall. So it was all built on Siteglide and platformOS. It was all designed in Figma using the design system, but then the application that runs these kiosks, which are interactive screens where people can find cinema times, they can find the shop that they're looking for, and it will give them directions from the shop from the kiosk that they're at. So all of that runs locally, so that if the internet goes out, it can run directly from that computer and the kiosk, and it's running through an Electron app. And yeah, I mean, we believe that's using the whole user-first approach. We spend a lot of time with the client planning it out in Figma. They were very interactive with us with WSI, sorry, in Figma, going through that process. and just making sure that it was right for the end user. There are actually a lot of iterations, I believe, on the UI of the kiosks, so that it was the right experience for the different types of users. Next one, you've seen this in one of our previous presentations, is Devon's AHA parenting site. So he did the designs in Sketch, WSI built them into HTML and into Siteglide, and then used things like forms and CRM to get the required functionality, as well as subscriptions. And then this is a good example of where you do use an external integration. The client wanted MailChimp, so it sends those subscriptions over to MailChimp and automates that process. Final one is UiPath. Absolutely huge project, all done in Figma. UiPath then adopted Figma because of the process that they went through with WSI to design it. The interactive collaboration and getting this right from a user perspective was huge, and we would always do it that way now, having seen how that's gone, and Siteglide does it as well for the UI and everything. We do everything through Figma. And that's become a platform that's now got over 70,000 users. It's helped them grow quite considerably, I think, and it's been a big part of their offering in the last year or so. And that's fully bespoke. We were literally able to build anything that they asked for. I did a summary just explaining sort of how to sort of get started on the whole user first concept. We've got our Figma design file, which you can download from our docs, and then it's free to sign up as a Siteglide partner, which I'm sure you guys already know. And then obviously we wanted to, it was great to actually meet some of the other partners and understand a little bit more about the WSI network. So flying through that a bit quickly, I just wanted to touch on a few things. So there's three things very quickly, two mainly. One is the starter site that I mentioned. I just wanted to show it and show how you can quickly learn or see how Siteglide works. So it's got eCommerce built in, and you can just start to play around with it. The next one would just be having a look at the roadmap and our changes, and real focus on a community engagement where everyone can kind of collaborate on questions, put feature requests in, log bugs, and see in context documentation. So if you ask a question, we can answer it automatically with a document in the Intercom live chat. And then finally, having spoken to quite a few partners, just more focus on working together and getting feedback and making sure that everyone can ask the questions that they need to really and get the answers. So let me just very quickly show you the starter kits concept. So from the portal, you can, as of today, you can create a site using it. So I'm just going to very quickly jump in there. But yeah, when you go to the sites area and you create a site, so I do it here, pick a data center, and then now there's this button to install the starter site. When you do that, we'll just go back to it. It pre-installs all sorts of things, some standard pages that we've come up with in this kind of sort of example site for a record company. So this is the front end of it here. So a record or music store, a few pages, just homepage, some blog posts, an about page, contact, FAQ, and shop. So we wanted just to show off a few standard pages, then a few modules like blog and FAQ, and then really show off this kind of e-commerce functionality. And this is going to form the basis of our documentation, of our training and tutorials, as well as every new feature that we build will be built into this. So it will be something that you can use to demo and learn from, but you could actually also use it soon as a way to build out sites. And we'll explain more on that very soon. But yeah, so in the back end, you can go to the pages, you can edit them using Visual Editor, you could edit them using Page Builder and use the layout library, or you could come over to the e-commerce section and see how the products are built, for example, and things like pricing, categories, which we use global categories rather than catalogs, all sorts of stuff that's pre-built in that you can just see it working without having to build it yourself. And then other modules like blogs and stuff pre-installed. So I think eCommerce is the most obvious one. It's been a big, hugely requested feature for quite a while. We actually released it a couple of months ago, but the issue was the sort of documentation and learning curve of using it. So what we've done is we've made it available, ready built, so that you can kind of see it and play around with it and customize it. Just quickly look at the chat. So is there an import feature for the eCommerce yet from BC? We haven't done that yet. We're finalizing things like CSV imports at the moment. So that would be the best way to go about it. You can get your data out using BC Exporter, and then you'd be able to import using our approach, our CSV import. And just generally, it's best to kind of not build from scratch, but build it again properly. So using the CSV import will sort of help you set up everything properly. And hopefully our design system and our starter site really go a long way to speeding up that process. And another question from Stephen, web apps fully functional? Yes, we'd need to know specifically what questions or what features you needed, but you can do all sorts of things with web apps. We've added more functionality than BC had in some places, things like select data sourcing, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely the best thing you can do is sign up or log in, create a site using starter kit, and come play around with it. Yeah, so that's the best place to start. Hopefully that gives you a quick tour of this. You can actually go through the whole checkout process. You can add items to cart. You can go to the cart and go through the checkout process. So it gives you a really good idea of what's there already. I know that things like shipping is coming very, very soon, but you'll be able to see what's in there at the moment. And then what I'm about to show you next with the roadmap will give you an idea of what's just around the corner. So yeah, that is the starter site. Very quickly try and explain what we've done on the roadmap side of things. So we were getting a lot of feedback from partners. We were answering everything in Intercom, the live chat, which is really, really effective and it's great, but there's not much sharing of knowledge. So we're maybe saying things multiple times and people ask questions like you are now because you just haven't got that information. So it also meant that the roadmap is hard to understand perhaps because you can't see what kind of questions we're getting and what we're having to adapt to. So to show you very quickly, what we've done is we've moved to using Intercom for docs, so that our docs will now move into here, meaning that you can view everything on the docs site, like the full articles, but when you're in the platform for like the UI and asking questions, we've got some automated processes that can ask for specific information, but then we can also automatically show you those docs within the chat. So in context documentation with that can be sent automatically or sent by our support team. So it should really, really help with the one-to-one support process, as well as you guys being able to find that information yourselves. You can do things like search for articles as well. The most important one that I want to show, the one that I'm quite keen to really launch and see people using, is our new roadmap community tool, sort of a few things in one. You can, from Intercom, you can give us some feedback, a bit like the old way, where you can just see all the different features that are in there, any votes on them, pick different topics or filters and add new ones. But most importantly, you can come over to the new community site, where in here you'll see our roadmaps. You'll see things that are under review, planned and in progress, and you'll get an idea of when they're being released. So we put them into either sort of which quarter they're in, and then on some we might show sort of up here, it would show which month we expect them to be released in. If we want to be very accurate and not mislead on timescales, because you're trying to explain things to clients. So we want to give you realistic time periods, but then maybe give you more details on when something's coming, because it's literally just around the corner, or it's further away. So that's going to really help on the roadmap. If you guys add feature requests in here and then people vote on them, that's going to help us prioritize things, and at least then you can see what's likely to happen next. So Ursh put this one up yesterday, because I've asked a few people to get involved in the early stages, and then people could comment on that, you could vote on it, and we would move it from under review to planned, in progress, and then complete, for example. The complete ones are in something called the change log, so you see full details here. Alongside this, just finally, it's not just for roadmap. So you can log bug reports here. You can add anything that you're struggling with, and we'd rather people do this here now than Intercom, because then other people can jump in and answer it, which means you get quicker answers. People can see the same problems and learn from them as a community. And then finally, there's one called partner discussion, where you could just ask anything. It could be a billing question, it could be anything that you want to specifically ask. All of this is accessed only by partners, so you'll automatically be logged in using your Siteglide credentials, and only partners will see this. So you can ask questions that won't be public. So it's using single sign-on. Wow, tried to explain quite a bit there. Any questions?
Great, thank you, Brendan. Yeah, Brendan, Luke, and I see a question from Brendan which might have been answered in that last session for you, Brendan. I hope. Yes. Any questions for Luke? What a great presentation! Thanks, Luke, for the update. It's great to see how far you've come, and it's looking really exciting. So hopefully to the benefit of all partners out there. Any questions for Luke? Finally, as we wrap up, I know we are 3 minutes short of the hour.
Just to answer Brendan, he's asked, is the roadmap on our current docs going to be updated? That was part of the issue. We weren't happy with the way we were managing that. It's not interactive enough and doesn't give a representation of what people are wanting and what we're discussing. So it will be replaced by this, Brendan, and everybody will be able to see what's happening when in here. So we will probably remove that page on the current docs site, get our docs into Intercom so that they're in context, and be able to manage everything here. And people can vote and ask questions within each roadmap feature. So somebody's asked, Brendan, you've asked when you can access it. You should be able to access it now. So as long as you're logged into the portal, if you then go to community.siteglide.com, you should be logged in and see things. If it says that it's private and you don't have access, let us know, but it should maybe give a few refreshes on the admin portal, or maybe log out and log in again. It's just, obviously it's been something that we've just added, so you'll need to have the latest version for it to be able to sort of sign you in.
Great, thank you. A few sound bites. Stephen says totally amazing. Anthony says brilliant. Luke, thank you. Alexandra, very exciting. She's excited to get building on the platform and got to run. Thank you, Alexandra. All right, it sounds like we don't have any more questions. And so once again, I'd like to thank Luke for the update. And I'm glad the Cancun outing was so successful. It sounds like it was really positive. And well done again. And thank you to everyone. And we'll wrap up unless there's any final questions. I don't think so. Great. All right. Thank you so much, Luke. And we'll obviously have this recording put up soon. So for those that weren't able to make it. All right. Over and out.
No problem. Thank you, everybody. Cheers.
Bye-bye.